do this. Music. Little different. Alright. We've been progressing and then revising, and now we have limited time, but we can make some progress on this. We'll just fill it in. And that is all we need to do. Fill it in, and that's good enough. Sounds simple, but it is simple, so that's okay. I like this track. How can I fill this in better? Got all sorts of different pens here. Let's see. Look at my fun collection. Got 4 Wacom pens right here. Anything to... all different sizes. The, I don't typically prioritize tools over techniques, but at a certain point you can eke out a little bit more. Like right now, I don't need to have a whole world of pressure sensitivity to do a good job at the fills. I actually needed, I'd rather hold off on all the pressure on my fingertips. Look at this, that's a much easier fill. Much darker, just better. Make an easy job even easier. It's a Monday, busy week ahead. Hey Squirrel Reaper, how are you? Good morning. I'm filling in this guy. Filling in for my Tektite dude. And this will be exciting, this part being done, because then we can just get back to executing the awesome color and lighting. Okay. You're hopping to bed. Were you up all night, or I have a hard time recalling exactly where you are on the planet, but yeah, all night. Awesome. That's awesome. I mean, it's not awesome, but it is awesome. Because you were probably super productive getting shit done. Well, you can fall asleep to the sound of my voice, or you can just say bye, or whatever you want to do. Or hang out a minute, it's all good. played games all day and then spent the rest of the night going up. Well, that is actually a different form of productivity. I don't anymore, but I played tons of video games. So tomorrow is going to be a productive day starting off. Yeah, you know what? Get it out of your system. Especially if, like, you just need to get that streak to get a game done or where you want it to be. I really enjoyed StarCraft 2. I guess a lot of people didn't like it for the multiplayer issues, but I thought it was like as a one-player like story campaign and stuff. Because I had never played StarCraft 1, so I didn't understand, like, it was kind of a remake, less a sequel. Or I guess I don't even know what I'm talking about necessarily, but but I loved it. I thought it was awesome. But that was a game I was kind of addicted to. It was interesting. I think your brain is avoiding learning the animation programs. You're going to force it. I heard online StarCraft is super wild. I mean, when people on, I don't know, when I was like, I fucking playing that game and I was like, fuck, it's a battle for the future. Everything is cool. Everything is weird and cool. I was totally into it. And then I'd like hear online that people thought it sucked. I'm like, what? You guys suck. How does this suck? This is awesome. So I could totally do some StarCraft 2 or whatever, StarCraft fan art one day. That'd be fun. It's just the competitiveness is really high. Yeah, and I guess StarCraft 1 was such a perfect balance of a game. Like it really just perfected the balance. And like the strats, and like it was just, you know, it was like as good as chess, you know. You just can't beat it for for what it is, you know. People, you know, you don't need to reinvent chess. You didn't need to reinvent StarCraft. But good or bad, they tried. But I was totally in, like, maybe it was just aesthetics, but like I was all about the that wave of real-time strategies coming out around that time. Like my first real-time strategy game was Red Alert, the original Red Alert, which is a Command and Conquer alternate universe or alternate timeline. And that was great, and so pretty much that got me into Command and Conquer games and start on Warcraft 2 and other types of stuff. Yeah, like I had friends that had Warcraft 2. The music in that is so crazy. I used to, I had a friend who had a Warcraft 2 CD. He didn't play the game anymore, and he was like, you can just put that CD in your car and it'll play it. It'll play it like it's a music CD. And I used to drive around bumping Warcraft 2 music. Or sorry, yeah, it was Warcraft 2. Like epic orchestral Lord of the Ringsy type stuff. what I heard it. Lord of the Rings is going to accompany you tomorrow. Okay, good. Going to binge it through while arting. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Often when I would work in long stretches, I would sort of plan. I don't know if this is helpful for anybody, but like sometimes I would get booked on jobs that I knew would be super difficult, generally speaking, because I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to work. It's probably gonna take 12 hours to finish this job, and they need it by tomorrow morning. And whether or not I had, sometimes things being pushed into late hours was my fault. Often it was the client fault, but sometimes it was my fault. And because it was often my fault, I didn't gripe about it, but I realized, I was like, this is my problem to solve. I can't go to sleep until this job is done, and it needs 12 hours of work so that this is finished in the morning. So I would walk down to the gas station or convenience store down the street, and I would just get every kind of like snack I could possibly want. I'd be like, okay, here's some Snickers bars, here's some Funyuns, here, like just the kind of interesting, stimulating crap that like you would never indulge yourself in except for like at a sleepover for teenage kids or something, like a 2-liter Mountain Dew and cool ranch Doritos, and it was, you know, you could, and of course like a big sack of weed or something like that, and then, you know, also be like, okay, I'm going to watch. There was one job, it's the missing ingredient, unfortunately. I had one job that was just going to be super boring. It was just basically like clean up all this stuff. And I ended up binging. Like, it was one of those things where I didn't really have to pay that much attention to the art. I just had to make it look decent. And there was a lot of it. And it was not interesting, so it wasn't something I could be passionate about. But excuse me. But like, I while I did that for a week, I binge watched the entire Saw series of horror movies, like Saw 1 through like Saw 10, whatever, and they all sort of bled together in one sort of weird bloody massacre. And I don't remember the job very well, but it feels like I remember enough of the movie, so that's interesting. So I definitely paid more attention to the movie than the work I was doing. It's interesting because it's like, art really, when you have enough fluency with it, it can be something you do on autopilot. At first it takes great concentration, but it's like walking. Eventually your mind just figures out what to do. And it's like, even what I'm doing right now, I'm not really thinking about it. Just got my specialized brain subroutines sort of executing. If there's a mistake, it'll automatically correct it. So I just have to sit down. So much of art is like that for me now. I'm like, okay, what's the one thing I'm trying to do right now? Okay, how do I do that? Do I do it this way? And then I just sit down and do it. The next task is a different task, uses a different part of the brain. When you get zone into the movie and experience it as you do art, but yeah, I'm gonna have to do a ton of concentrating and looting. Oh, so if you're really learning something new, yeah, you gotta get in that like That's hard because it's like you have to break your brain a little bit. It's hard because our brains are like resistant to solutions that, like, we want to go to solutions that we know how to execute, that don't give us anxiety. Your brain went, yeah, okay, so like, yeah, you're like, I have to escape for a little bit, you know, you get anxiety about it. So don't do a new thing, do fun thing. You won't get eaten by a cheetah. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. Yeah, like it was interesting. My son yesterday was doing a performance of his preschool play or whatever, and it was cute. All the kids were like doing a bad job, but doing it the best they could, and my son was doing good up until like a certain point, and then he sort of was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I could tell it was like, okay, well, that's sort of his way, but he also it's interesting because it's like he knew that like he didn't want to do it. He wanted to go do something else and just get this over with, but he also understood that like he couldn't just leave the stage. So he sort of went to an area where he could sort of like hide in a way that was minimally obtrusive, and everything was good. You know, he's a little outlier for sure, but you know, when he was doing a good job, he was doing a really good job, and then he was just sort of like, oh, I don't really like this, I don't care. You know, but I chose to see it as a glass half full situation. So, you know, like he got on stage. Some kids melt down. They just, I mean, none of these kids did, but they, you know, some kids have a lot more trouble with anxiety. They'll scream. They'll disrupt the whole thing, destroy stuff, get in fights and push stuff. So none of that happened, so happy with that. He likes the play aspect of school. He doesn't love the now you have to sit down and listen aspect of school. And I'm like, I get it, kid. So and I'm definitely not a you have to do school because this is the only way that people can make it in life. You know, I'm not that guy. So I'm like, you have to, for me, it's like, you have to go to school because daddy will be thrown in jail if you don't go to school. That's the reason you have to go to school. Or you have to go to school because daddy can't watch you all day. That's the thing. And the schools here are great. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just, I get it why. Even as a young kid, he's just a little bit like, why do I have to do this? Okay, so it looks filled, but this is the, we have to test it. So, okay, so I don't see any issues, but sometimes this stuff is very hard to see. So one thing we can do is we can darken now this background. Okay, and then lighten the fill. Or did I do this backwards? Oh yeah, I kind of did this backwards. That's interesting. Well, it still looks good. Normally I do the light on the dark first. Light on the dark background. And then I do the dark fill on the light background to check it. And it'll help me spot a bunch of errors. Like right here, I don't love that this feels like it's like going over a little bit. But, you know, this guy might be a little bit backlit. What I might do though is just eat into some of these edges a little bit. With the erase tool. Just case in point, like this little bit, right? I like doing these I like doing it this way because sort of reserves like they're very concrete steps that don't have to, I mean, everybody's approaches and solutions are valid, but I'm very consistent in my approach to how I'm doing the color stuff. I think there's logic to it, and there isn't a lot of wasted time where I'm like, oh, I'm designing, you know, how I want the light to look, but then like, oh, you know, I've got it nearly finished painted, but then I want to change something about the pose, and then I'm fighting the pose and making it adapt to, you know, I don't know, like, I like to do things in steps that are like, do a rough thumbnail, then outline it, then fill it, then start painting, then start being like lit. Some people kind of do everything all at once, and I see that stuff and I'm like, okay, that's cool. Let's see where this goes. And sometimes it's like, I'm like, wow, they're pretty good at that, but also they seem to be backtracking a lot, going back and making different decisions about stuff. And, you know, that has its interesting way, but I don't know if that would be good for me. It doesn't feel like that would... Part of why I do this way is like, I know that this can work in a pipeline. You can show someone the stages, and it doesn't just mutate over time. It just feels like a better finished version of the same thing. It's almost like constructing a house. Like the foundation is clear, like the plans are clear, the foundation is clear. You move on to the next step when one step is completed. Squirrel Reaper, are you on Tumblr? Bringing it up as I had interesting. I've been pleased with there's a very established Zelda community in Tumblr that had been receptive to me posting there recently, which I had enjoyed. And I didn't know anything about Tumblr really until I'm still learning about it, obviously. But it is it's fun to see how those dynamics are different. Sometimes it's hard for me to see the bigger picture without doing the extra steps. Yeah. No, I understand that. I don't mind it if it helps me see it differently. I totally get that. I think it, like, me having I don't have like a strict imagination or anything like that, but but I have enough mileage and fluency with my process to understand that I can pretty much execute as long as like the initial idea is meets a certain threshold for interest. Like, okay, it's like I can make a cool thumbnail of that, and if I can make a cool thumbnail of that, then you know the execution should be feasible. There shouldn't be any reason that it wouldn't look good. Tumblr's been interesting because well, for one, there's a very, I mean, this is probably a, you know, I'll be extremely charitable. There's definitely like some extremely cool Zelda fan art networks there that I had no clue existed. Like a lot of them in fiction or people making Zelda comics and stuff, and I didn't know about that because that stuff, those formats don't work well on Instagram or Reddit, but for some reason Tumblr, like, they just take off. So it's been cool for me to like see that I'm like, oh, I'm not the only one trying to do cool Zelda stuff. This is pretty awesome. And I had my first AI art allegations. It was kind of funny, but of course I've been documenting the process, so there's no drama. I was like, okay, I can post work in progresses or whatever, but you know, they did not. They were not incredulous. Everything ended up being a nice, funny. Whoops, sorry. You know. Okay, these look good. So now, turn off some of this stuff. Let's turn off that. Oh, we gotta save. What a time we live in, yeah. It's not great to extrapolate into the future. Hopefully, I don't know. Yesterday I saw like an article that gives me hope that it's like, well, I don't need to talk about it too much, but it seemed like the crux of the article was that, like, even at Google, they're realizing the low-hanging fruit of the AI generated AI stuff is gone. It's already been picked, basically. So now, like, all that's left is like the really hard speculative stuff. Like, maybe we can achieve these things with more AI inputs, you know, more scraping, except we've already scraped everything. So how do we do that if how do we get how do we get 15 times, this is arbitrary, but how do we get like an order of magnitude more authentic human data that is good quality when we've already inputted 90% of all of the human data in the world, and it's not enough. It's like they're gonna have to figure out either how to do this stuff for real, or they're gonna have to wait for that data to be generated so they can scrape it. Okay, let's fill. And I hope that's the case. I hope costs go up, and I hope everything is difficult for them forever. Okay, it looks like I have some color variety here in the Tektite that I need to make sure it gets expressed. You start using Nightshade more often. You always forget to. I have stopped nightshading. I used to do this stuff, and I stopped it. I don't necessarily feel great about that, but I don't. They right now it's I mean, I'm not sure that it works that well. I've taken some night-shaded outputs, like, so I've night-shaded some of my artwork, like some of the Zelda stuff, like a finished Zelda piece, like the Vires or something like that, you know, or whatever, or the one where they're riding a horse. And so these finished pieces, and I've uploaded them to Google Gemini. Now these are night shaded pieces, so they're theoretically they're protected. And I uploaded them to Google Gemini, and I was like, "Hey, can you tell me what is in this image?" They're like, "Certainly. It appears to be characters from The Legend of Zelda riding away on a horse from a large octopus as it's crashing through a forest." And I'm like, that's pretty accurate. I'm like, it didn't look at it and say like, "Oh, that's a banana," you know. I just don't think the I'm skeptical of the. Yeah, and that wasn't the only one. I did the one with the ghost, and it was interesting. It was able to be like, you know, the artist has a clear understanding of composition and color. You know, I was like, well, I'll take the compliment. Thanks, you stupid machine. Go fuck yourself. But it was a little bit of like, okay, this stuff. I don't know if if that means that Nightshade doesn't work. I don't think that's necessarily the takeaway. But I don't. I mean, if it, like, I've heard and read, and I've somewhat, you know, can actually can actually like sort of be like, oh, this could be true, and like basically making it more difficult for the machines to scrape the stuff, like, might make it that they become better at scraping. You know, we're just throwing more challenges their way, more interesting challenges for them to, puzzles for them to solve, and And ultimately what that is it's an arms race. So I'm not sure. And also I don't think like the world or the public cares for it, and I don't know. I also don't see a lot of artists doing it anyway. Like, some people are doing it and some people aren't, but like the people that are uploading and, you know, getting engaged, like, more than protecting, I don't know. Like, I don't like, I don't want to help the machines. But I think one of the best things for maybe for me to do, or basically the example to set, is to just sort of be brave and embrace the risk a little bit, and be agnostic to the negativity that can come with. Yeah, I noticed so much art is uploaded at high res. Yeah. Like, I don't think it's a good look to go out there I mean, the point is for it to be seen and be conspicuous and be I can't be like, hey, here's some skill share, you know, here's techniques, here's this stuff that I know and I want you guys to learn it too, or see what it can do. I can't do that and also be like, we need to protect who's seeing this and whatever. It's I really want to sort of just embrace the openness. And there's risk, and if, you know, I don't know, I don't think, I'm skeptical of the machine's ability to truly get to a point where it can like, it can do a lot of stuff, but I don't know if it can quite do everything. And but I'll tell you something. Yesterday, over the weekend we went to a holiday event, and they were giving out like gift bags. On these gift bags are AI depictions of like, and it's like a cute AI depiction, but it's clearly AI. I threw them away, but it was because they were just full of sugar and I didn't want my kids eating them anymore. But it was like Santa and Rudolph in like a winter wonderland or whatever. It's like trash, but also it's trash, you know. That stuff isn't special. That's nothing interesting. And whatever, like, that's the niche that occupies. I think there will just be enough. I don't know. I don't want to it's interesting. And focus on having conflicts with things that I can't control. It's just, at this point, I'm like, I'm just gonna focus on what I can learn and see what I can put out there for others to riff on. There we go. A little bit darker now. Okay, this lava stuff is looking cool. Thinking of getting a sticker cutter and a printer for vinyl stickers. That's cool. I think it would be a good thing to try selling on Etsy. Oh, that's cool. I like the idea of do they have, doesn't Etsy or places have like print on demand stuff? I'm not saying that's this is from my own experience, but long ago I had a comic and there was a debate. There is print on demand. So you should not take my advice on this stuff, because I didn't have any direct experience. But just something to think about was sticker app. Like if it was me and I was like, should I sell stickers or should I get should I get a sticker printer or or just default to the because I think it's like you can have more control and, you know, quality control and probably more profit if they're selling like hotcakes. You could it totally would make sense to get your own machine, I think, or whatever. But just something to think about was back in the day, me and my dad were like, okay, we've got like a comic, we've got enough pages to make a print, and my dad, you know, he did his calculations and he was like, okay, this is gonna be the best thing to do, is we're going to, you know, he didn't want to do a Kickstarter, which made sense, I think, except at the time, like, a Kickstarter would have been a really good test as to whether or not, like, our comic book was actually popular enough to to merit printing. And it's interesting because it's like, I don't know, my dad looked at good engagement and thought it could be converted to like, okay, we can make sales out of this. But it turned out that our audience was less about being interested in buying things and just more interested in you know, reading things on a computer. But, you know, my dad and I were part of that, you know, earlier, you know, we were used to physical comics and sort of thinking of that as the real thing to go for, and that, you know, we were selling ourselves short by having digital only availability. It made sense to be like, no, we need to get the real thing. Of course, the real thing wasn't actually preferable for most people. The reason being probably that it wasn't convenient, and that, you know, a part of why you like a webcomic is you can interact with the author and other fans of the comic. It's just the comic, and it's not necessarily that interesting. Like, if you have a little online community, sometimes that's the interest, and not so much about the comic. The comic is sort of like a watering hole that people can congregate around. Well, anyway, what I'm saying is my dad made his calculations and then made his bets, and he was like, okay, we're gonna our best chance at profitability is to print it ourselves, and then we're gonna order a bunch of copies, and then we'll sell them, and we're gonna print them as big as we can. I'll order 5,000 copies. I was like, holy shit. He spent basically $15,000 or ordering $5,000 or 5,000 copies of comic book. It's a lot. It's like stacks and stacks. Or is it 1,000? Anyway, I just remember the comics weighed a ton, and they took up the entire corner of a room in their house. And I don't know if we even made one sale. We probably made like 10 or 15 or something like that. But the one thing that happened was my dad didn't calculate for this, but the and I don't know if this is necessarily a direct thing, but like the post office, and I don't know if this was a result of political change at the time, because this is around 2017, 2016. They printed as many as they did, and my dad was like, this is the size that we can print them, and they'll fit into these mailers for the post office, and you can mail them for $20 each, or something like that, basically, and whatever's in them or whatever, but it's the perfect size. And I was like, okay, the plan made sense, except the post office changed their thing. They're like, okay, we're not going to do that for that price anymore. It's going to cost $30 or whatever, or $50 for those mailers. I don't know. And then the entire price or the profit structure went away because we couldn't mail them out at a reasonable price anymore. They wouldn't. There were smaller mailers that would have worked, but because we had to print it 1 inch bigger than the standard formats, so my dad was like, "Well, bigger is better," you know. And he had his logic there, but that wasn't the safe. I think ultimately, like, one thing I took away from it, because my dad put up all of his own money on the comic project, and it was a good learning experience, is I think the nicest way to put it. But what I learned from that is that there probably is a little bit of sense in, well, you know, if you put something out there for print on demand and it's selling like hotcakes and you're missing out on money by not doing it yourself, then, you know, make those steps to do it yourself. Make that mistake instead of the mistake that my dad made would be my suggestion. It's like my dad had like a big go big or go home sort of idea about it, but there were different different realities at stake in play. Very ambitious plans, but you know, fate has other ideas sometimes. Like you can do it, like you could do a print on demand kind of test, you know, and see if it sells, you know. Or like see what sells. Like see, it's interesting. It's like what I'm learning is, one thing I'm thinking about printing the cutters. That'll have something you also use to make heat press shirts, nice short prints, good for cons if you ever do. Yeah, I mean, like if it's not going to break your bank to like do that and like learn like that art, I think that is a thing. Like what I'd say is don't spend $15,000 on it. If it's like $150 or $200 or $1,000, like you know. Like, but like if it was like a huge chunk of change, like I don't know, just spend them, do whatever you want, you know. I have a buddy that it's around $1,000. I mean, that's not gonna move the meter much in any sort of real drastic way. So And then it's like, you don't, you see, here's the thing. You can, the printer, cutter, and then materials. So here's the thing, is you can theoretically resell that asset. If you felt like, oh, I don't like doing this and I thought I would, but now I don't like it, you can sell it, you know. If you print out a bunch of comics and, you know, no one's buying them, you can't just sell them, you know. You kind of, and so those comics unfortunately met a terrible fate. Like eventually we're just like, after basically 6 years of sitting in a corner, and we're just like, you know what, we just got to pull the plug on this. It's done. So we got our corner of the room back, and it only cost us $15,000. Lessons in indie publishing, but you know what? So many people have done way worse. Way worse. Okay, this is it. Took me a while to find the layer I was looking for. Because we changed the shape of this Tektite. So now so the areas that were covered up didn't get properly filled. So then when I changed the shape of the Tektite, I had to refill in some of these areas in the back. That makes sense. Yeah, that's also true. Yeah, I can experiment a lot with it. Yeah, make a sticker. I mean, you'll experiment with it and you'll see ideas. I think it's, you know, my dad ordered a bunch of these comics like from China or whatever, and like he didn't know what he was doing. Well, I want to be diplomatic and charitable to my dad, but there was a like the some things were, you know, I had issues with the comic where I was like, I wanted to be, you know, supportive to my dad, and he'd be like, okay, this looks really great, we're gonna go with this, and I'd be like, okay, I'm a little concerned that like the paper quality is a little thin, and you know, I can kind of see like the image on the other side. Like, is that something that can be fixed or whatever? He's like, it's not bad, you know, or whatever. And I'm like, okay, you know, at times it was difficult, and I wanted there to be, you know, but it was like I was putting no financial risk in the game, so it was like, okay, I'm gonna let him, you know, have his way on this stuff. I don't have any choice really, because I can't do other. But yeah, there was and it wasn't like the quality came through bad. I think I have somewhere. I'll bust it out later on. But like ultimately, what I was realizing is like compared to the image quality you get on a computer monitor, what you see in a print is crap. You can't get away from that. Like the color vibrancy and contrast on a computer monitor is far more vibrant than in a print. And like, unless you are really shelling out to make it look like $1 trillion, like with metallic inks and stuff like that, and all that is super expensive, with tons of Q&A and back and forth. So there was sort of like this that was like, there was no question that my dad wanted to do it the right way, but what that right way was not necessarily something that was easy for us to align with. And I sort of had a point to not make trouble yeah, this is just sort of like me in my storyboard artist mode, where I'm like, okay, well, you know, I'm an artist and that's my role, but I'm not trying to step out of that role and get involved in like business and marketing and other stuff that isn't my area of expertise. You know, if my dad is taking on that role, then I'm going to let him. I'm going to learn what I can from the sidelines, and I did. I learned from the sidelines a lot. And my big takeaway was, I don't know, sometimes it's sensible to think small and do testing. You know, it's interesting. Oh, you have, wait a second, I want to see the new piece. Give her a new weapon. Yeah, show me the thing. I'm about to finish up here, so now is the time. So those were the interesting times back then. I think also what I was sort of about to say is that one thing I appreciate about the social media is there's a good amount of like, if you can read it right, the so like, you know, I've done rough drawings of these things and I've posted them, and what's been interesting is there's a good amount, it's not perfect consistency, which is interesting, but if you average the reactions and essentially the popularity of a rough sketch roughly translates to the popularity of the finished sketch or the finished piece, which is interesting. So regardless of how I feel about the piece, if a piece is, if a rough sketch is really hitting and resonating with audiences, that translates very well to the to whether or not the final piece is hitting and resonating with the audience. And of course this depends on audiences and stuff like that, but those distinctions and all sorts of other contexts, like if I post them all at the same time, people have the ability to like really pick and choose which ones they love more. Whereas if I just post one thing, they only have the ability to like or not engage with it as a single thing. So that's interesting. There's like a little speck here that's bugging me. I heard it's better to go with one a week or one a few days or so people can soak it in. Yeah, it's interesting. I've did a bit of binging on the Tumblr thing, but I'm realizing I'm like, I should probably not, you know, overdo it, like overstate. So I'm gonna put a pause on that. But it's interesting, like I'd been posting the finished pieces on Tumblr, and then I was like, let's post some rough sketches too and see how those resonate. And the popularity of those is not as immediate as the finished pieces, but like people are really like, wow, this is phenomenal or whatever, and they're like, but you know, once they sort of realize what the potential is, they are willing to sort of being like, wow, this rough sketch looks amazing too, or whatever. That's tricky. I mean, just sort of, I'm not so much telling, but just sort of verbally processing what it feels like I'm learning. One thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make a note of this right now, is I had an idea for this piece. I know that I should probably do a little research, but they've got these like fun like strange fun dragons. And like Tears of the Kingdom that are like sort of like wobbly. So here goes the piece. You can see some onomatopoeia of Japanese sounds making a loud tapping sound, which I animate out as she taps the konobo. And I'm thinking I can add pebbles rumbling. Oh, that's cool. A crack in the ground will fade in and out as she taps. That's cool. Let's see. Here. Let me save this so this is done. And yeah, this is my wife wants me to come out, so I'm gonna take a quick look. I can't really do a critique or anything like that. Tell you I love it. Okay, this is looking really great. Yeah. Perfect. I'd say move to final. Because you really did, you did everything I told you to, actually. You could go slightly darker on this shoulder, I think, maybe. I know it already looks super dark, but, like, you use your best judgment, but if you can somehow maybe match it even to what we're sort of getting here. But yeah, this is like, because you've got it here, like, you've got it. This is good. I don't know if this part needs to be the like, see how this is like the, yes, like the hip is here, so this part is good, but maybe like make it here. But this looks good. And then, yeah, then have it like dark. And that maybe, and keep it subtle. Like I'm talking about like a couple of millimeters. Yeah, so then you can have this like dark curve here, and dark curve here, and then dark curve here. Like people go nuts for that shit. All right, this is looking really good. 2 big thumbs up. All right. I have a split, so let's see here. I'll move this away, do a quick thumbnail. I don't know about that dragon. We'll have to see. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to make it look better than that. I think it's gonna be a matter of subtlety. Oop, it's too much. Just want it like super subtle. There. People can see it. All right, well, good luck with it. push it through. Is that where you're gonna be? Oh no, you're gonna learn your animation stuff. Dude, take your time to make it look like really tight and slick. It's good. If like this looks good, like to move to final. If you can execute that quickly, then that's great. But this is you know, I don't know. I think it would take me maybe a couple days to get it looking perfect, you know, or whatever. Yeah, well, you know, do it at your pace and share it when you're done. I'd love to see it. Okay, so this is the progress for today. Let's do 50-50. Learning can be difficult. Learning is a painful metamorphosis. All right, here's a good one. All right, that's perfect. That's the thumbnail. Perfect. I'm gonna test out the animation program. Studios is super simplistic style. Okay, cool. All right, well, keep me posted, and thanks for stopping in. All right, I'm gonna say adios.